So you think the big AI revolution is all happening in those giant whirring data centers? Well, think again. It's actually happening right here, in the palm of your hand. Today, we're diving into the rise of small language models, the incredible tech that's bringing powerful AI offline and, well, right into our daily lives. Okay, let's get into it.
For the longest time, AI has been all about this numbers game. Bigger models, more data, more everything. But this quote right here, it just flips that whole idea on its head. It suggests the real revolution, the one that's going to change everything, isn't in the cloud. It's offline, it's secure, and it's personal. And that is the promise of these small models. Okay, let's break this down side by side. Think of cloud AI like a massive, powerful library that's way across town. You need a connection to get there, and every time you ask a question, you're sending your request off to some central librarian. On-device AI, on the other hand, is like having that entire library downloaded right onto your phone. It's always there, the response is instant, and it's completely 100% private. It's a really fundamental shift in how we think about and interact with intelligence.
Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, we have to unravel this core belief that totally dominated AI for years, the bigger is better myth. For a while there, the whole industry was locked in this kind of arms race, just chasing more and more parameters, assuming that sheer size equaled intelligence. Turns out, that was a pretty expensive misunderstanding.
And this is where things get really interesting. Researchers discovered that a lot of those giant models were actually undertrained. They were basically fed a junk food diet of low-quality data scraped from the internet. And they found that a smaller model, one that was meticulously trained on textbook-quality information, could actually run circles around a poorly read giant. It's the classic case of quality over quantity.
All right, so how on earth do you take a model that needs a warehouse full of servers and shrink it down so it can fit on a smartphone? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a set of incredibly clever computer science techniques.
It really boils down to three brilliant ideas. First, you've got knowledge distillation, which is kind of like a teacher-student model. Then there's quantization, which is basically a form of super smart compression. And finally, pruning, which is like trimming a bonsai tree. You're just carefully snipping away the unnecessary parts to make the whole thing leaner and more efficient.
Let's start with knowledge distillation. Imagine a huge, wise teacher model like a GPT-4. Now, instead of just giving a smaller student model the answers from a test, the teacher explains how it got the answers. The student model learns to mimic the teacher's logic and its patterns, capturing the essence of that intelligence without all the massive bulk. It's not about getting the right answer, it's about learning the process of getting there. Next up is quantization. Honestly, the easiest way to think about this is like compressing a huge, beautiful photo into a JPEG. A model's knowledge is stored in millions of numbers called weights. Quantization cleverly reduces the precision of those numbers, say from a super detailed 32-bit number down to a simpler 4-bit one. You lose an absolutely tiny amount of detail, but the file size just plummets while the model's accuracy stays remarkably high. And the result is, well, it's dramatic. A process like quantization can take a 15-gigabyte model, which is way too big for your phone, and shrink it all the way down to a totally manageable 4 gigabytes. And just like that, something that required a dedicated server can now live comfortably in your pocket.
So, we've shrunk the giant. Awesome. But who cares, right? What does that actually mean for you? What are the real-world advantages of having this power right there on your device? Well, this is where the revolution really gets going. First, and for a lot of us, this is the most important thing, privacy. With a small local model, your corporate secrets, your personal health info, your private messages, none of it ever gets sent to some third-party server in the cloud. This isn't just a feature they tacked on. It is privacy by design. And for industries like healthcare or finance, that's a total game changer. And then there's the speed. You know that feeling when you're waiting for a web page to load on a spotty connection? Cloud AI has that same exact problem. On-device AI is instant, every single time, because all the thinking is happening right there. It's the difference between having a conversation with someone in the same room versus a long-distance call with a bad delay.
Finally, let's talk about the money. Running a cloud AI service is astronomically expensive. By letting your device do the heavy lifting, companies can offer these powerful AI features to millions of people without having to build server farms the size of a city. It makes powerful AI accessible to everyone, not just the people who can afford the massive server bills.
And make no mistake about it, the race is on. Microsoft's Phi 3 absolutely stunned the industry by proving that high-quality data is way more important than size.
Mistral 7B out of France set a whole new benchmark for open-source models. And now, the titans, Google with Gemma, and even Apple with its super secretive projects, they're all betting big on an on-device future.
Okay, so let's move away from the theory and talk about where you're actually going to see this stuff pop up. I mean, this isn't science fiction. These small models are already being used in some pretty fascinating ways.
Take medicine, for example. Instead of a generalist AI that knows a little bit about everything, you can have a small model on a tablet that has been fine-tuned on, say, every issue of the New England Journal of Medicine. A doctor in a remote village with no internet can use it for diagnostic help, and all the patient data stays completely private on that one device.
Or look at software development. Developers can run a local coding assistant that has read their company's entire private code base. It can give them incredibly relevant suggestions, help write code all without sending a single line of proprietary information over the internet. That is huge.
And this is where it starts to feel like we're really living in the future, the true smart home. Forget those rigid "Hey Google" commands. Imagine just talking to your thermostat or your microwave in natural language, and it just gets it. These small models can fit on the tiny microchips inside our appliances, which enables a whole new natural way of interacting with our environment.
So this all points toward this grand vision where AI becomes a personal, democratized tool for everyone. But let's be clear, it's not a perfect solution for everything. It's really important to understand the trade-offs here.
So, is there a catch to all of this? Is it all too good to be true? Yeah, there kinda is. While these small models are incredibly powerful, they have one key limitation that people call the reasoning gap.
Okay, so here's the deal. Small language models are brilliant as engines of logic. They are amazing at things like summarizing your own documents or having a conversation about information that you give them. But they can struggle with very complex, multi-step reasoning, like a difficult math proof. And because they just don't have as much space to store facts, they can sometimes hallucinate or just make things up when you ask them about obscure trivia. They're reasoning tools, not encyclopedias.
And that really brings us to the ultimate vision. Maybe the future of AI isn't one single giant brain in the cloud, but a trillion tiny, specialized minds woven into the very fabric of our lives. The real question isn't what some big company is going to build, it's what will you build when this kind of power is truly in your hands.